In a small, isolated town nestled between the mountains, there stood an abandoned mental asylum that cast a chilling shadow over the entire community. Once a place of healing and hope, it had long fallen into disrepair, its walls echoing with the tormented history it held within. Local legends spoke of the asylum's dark past, shrouded in secrecy and suffering. It was said that the asylum's patients had endured unspeakable treatments at the hands of uncaring doctors. Patients who arrived with a glimmer of hope were consumed by the asylum's sinister atmosphere, their minds unraveling like frayed threads. One moonlit night, a group of curious teenagers decided to explore the asylum, driven by equal parts fear and fascination. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the decaying building as they cautiously approached its weathered entrance. Ivy tendrils had claimed parts of the walls, and broken windows gaped like hollow eyes. The creak of the front door echoed through the silent halls as they entered. The air was thick with a musty smell, and the faint sound of dripping water seemed to harmonize with the wind's mournful howl. Graffiti covered the walls, a testament to the brave souls who had ventured here before, their messages of fear and warning etched in paint. As they explored deeper into the asylum, a sense of unease settled upon them like a heavy fog. Broken furniture lay strewn about, and faded patient files littered the floor, filled with tales of despair and unimaginable pain. The group split up, their flashlights revealing glimpses of rusted beds, leather restraints, and eerily empty corridors. It wasn't long before they began to hear faint whispers, carried by the wind that seemed to creep through every crack and crevice. The whispers grew louder, morphing into anguished cries and disjointed sentences that danced on the edge of comprehension. They were the forgotten voices of the asylum's past, pleading for release from the shadows. Panic set in as the group struggled to find each other amidst the labyrinthine hallways. Doors slammed shut on their own, and chilling drafts seemed to follow them, raising goosebumps on their skin. The whispers grew more insistent, swirling around them like a haunting melody that scratched at the edges of their sanity. One by one, the teenagers found themselves drawn to a particular room at the end of a dimly lit corridor. The door groaned open as if beckoning them, revealing a room untouched by time. In the center, an old phonograph played a hauntingly familiar tune, its notes echoing with a melancholic longing. Transfixed by the music, the teenagers felt a compulsion to approach the phonograph. As they reached out to touch it, the room plunged into darkness, the music abruptly ceasing. Silence hung heavily for a moment before a blinding light erupted from the phonograph, casting elongated shadows on the walls. When the light faded, the room was empty. The teenagers had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only the haunting echoes of their final screams, which mingled with the anguished whispers of the asylum's tormented souls. From that day forward, the townspeople avoided the abandoned asylum, for they knew that it held more than just memories of suffering. It was a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred, where the past bled into the present, and where the anguished whispers of the forgotten would forever haunt those who dared to listen. Amidst the desolate landscape, shrouded by overgrown foliage and crumbling walls, the abandoned mental asylum stood as a grim testament to the horrors of its past. For decades, the townsfolk had avoided its decaying facade, wary of the unsettling stories that surrounded it. But as the shadows lengthened and the moon cast an eerie glow, the mystery of the asylum's enigmatic janitor began to unravel. Local legends spoke of the janitor, a figure cloaked in darkness, who was rumored to still roam the forgotten halls. Said to have been present during the asylum's darkest days, his origins remained obscured, and his purpose remained a chilling enigma. Some whispered that he had been a patient, while others believed he was a malevolent spirit bound to the asylum by his own torment. Intrigued by the tales, a group of urban explorers set out to uncover the truth behind the asylum's abandoned halls. Among them was Alex, an investigative journalist with an insatiable curiosity for the macabre. He hoped to unravel the asylum's secrets and shed light on the history that had been obscured by time. The explorers cautiously entered through a broken window, their flashlights revealing a haunting scene. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the sound of dripping water seemed to reverberate through the silence. Faded patient files lay scattered on the floor like confessions of suffering, and graffiti-covered walls told the stories of those who had ventured here before. As they delved deeper, a sense of unease settled upon the group. Cold drafts brushed against their skin, and the distant echo of footsteps seemed to tease the edge of their senses. The asylum seemed alive, as if it retained the memories of the pain and anguish it had witnessed. The explorers split up to cover more ground, each step carrying them deeper into the labyrinthine corridors. Alex, drawn to the mystery of the janitor, ventured into a particularly dim hallway. Broken light fixtures swayed overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced on the peeling wallpaper. As he walked, a whisper seemed to float through the air, faint yet distinct. It was a name that sent shivers down his spine. Samuel. The voice was barely audible, yet it felt as though it reverberated within his very bones. Alex paused, his heart racing, and cast his flashlight around the corridor. There, standing in the shadows, was a figure, the janitor. His silhouette was hunched, the tattered janitorial uniform he wore hanging loosely on his emaciated frame. Straggles of unkempt hair framed his face, and his eyes gleamed with a strange mix of weariness and desperation. Alex's curiosity overpowered his fear, and he took a cautious step forward. "Hello? Are you the janitor? Do you know what happened here?" His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. The janitor's lips parted, but no sound emerged. Instead, his eyes seemed to bore into Alex's, conveying a depth of sorrow and suffering that words couldn't capture. A mournful expression twisted his features, and then he turned and shuffled down the hallway, disappearing into the shadows. Determined to understand the janitor's role in the asylum's history, Alex followed, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, and each door they passed emitted a sense of foreboding. The asylum's past was a tapestry of pain and tragedy, woven with the threads of lost souls. After what felt like an eternity of winding corridors, the janitor stopped before a heavy door. With a trembling hand, he pushed it open, revealing a room that seemed untouched by time. Furniture stood intact, and the air held a musty sweetness, like memories preserved in amber. In the center of the room, a desk was cluttered with yellowed papers and faded photographs. Alex approached, his eyes scanning the documents. The photographs depicted scenes of torment, a stark contrast to the serenity of the room itself. Among the papers he found handwritten notes that detailed experimental treatments, accounts of patient suffering, and the janitor's own words. The janitor's story emerged in fragments, a once brilliant mind now shattered by the atrocities he had witnessed. He had been a patient, a gifted scientist who had been committed against his will. The asylum's doctors had used him to carry out their twisted experiments, forcing him to participate in procedures that defied humanity. As Alex read on, the janitor's voice seemed to echo in his mind, recounting his desperation to escape the torment. He had stumbled upon the room, a sanctuary amidst the chaos, and had documented his experiences in the hope that someday someone would uncover the truth. The janitor's story was a chilling revelation, and as Alex continued to explore the room, he discovered a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Within it lay a journal filled with heart-wrenching confessions of pain, guilt, and the ghosts that haunted his mind. As he read, the walls around them seemed to close in, the air growing heavy with the weight of the janitor's anguish. The room itself seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as if the asylum's past was converging with the present. The janitor's spirit was bound by guilt and suffering, his tormented existence a reflection of the very horrors he had sought to escape. Alex's heart ached for the janitor, and he realized that he held the key to setting the enigmatic soul free. Armed with the knowledge he had uncovered, he resolved to give the janitor the closure he so desperately needed. With a determined heart, Alex returned to the hallway, where the janitor still stood, his eyes locked on a distant point. As Alex approached, the janitor turned to him, a mixture of recognition and longing in his gaze. Alex held out the journal, offering the words that would release the janitor from his torment. The janitor reached out, his trembling fingers brushing against the journal's pages. As he read, his features contorted with raw emotion, pain, regret, and ultimately a glimmer of relief. His eyes met Alex's, and for a fleeting moment, a connection formed between them, transcending time and space. With a final, weary sigh, the janitor's form began to fade, like mist dissipating in the morning sun. His spirit, burdened by years of suffering, was finally free. The air seemed to sigh in response, the asylum's shadows receding as if exhaling a collective breath of release. As the sun rose, its golden rays spilled through the broken windows of the abandoned asylum. The explorers left, their hearts heavy with the weight of the stories they had uncovered. Alex carried the janitor's journal with him, a reminder of the past he had helped uncover and the soul he had set free. In the days that followed, the townsfolk noticed a change in the asylum's atmosphere. The air felt lighter, the shadows less menacing. Whispers of the janitor's tale began to circulate, and a sense of closure settled upon the once-forgotten building.